Hi everyone, I'm Dracoya back here with Matt the Pickled Dragon. We've got our drinks ready and hand. I've got a nice stout today. Matt, what have you got?
I've got Kanish. It's a nice sipping rum. It
Ooh,
says it's an artisanal rum.
you're
Yeah,
going harder than me tonight.
distilled in Barbados. It is quite good. I recommend it highly.
So, Matt and I were talking the other day about the different aspects of D&D. And one thing that we wanted to talk about today was markets in D&D. If you are a new player, if you're a new DM, maybe you can help bring some of these ideas to your table. If you're an old player or an old DM who just needs some new, fresh ideas, we've got you too. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this is when players go shopping, it is an opportunity for some incredible moments of role playing hilarity to ensue. Um, so, there are a huge number of ways, a vast number of ways to liven up the oh God, do we have to go shopping moment. And the way I always do it is, well, there's two ways. One is through characters. So the NPCs should be unique. Uh, in my world, I have a beholder, for example. His name is Argyle, who was the victim of a horrific home invasion by adventurers who stole all his loot and took all of his eye stalks, save one, as trophies. So when he actually stabilized and he comes to, he's groggy, and he's got the one eye stalk looking around. He doesn't know why the others aren't moving, and then he realizes they're all gone. All he's got is his telekinesis ray, his big fat eye, middle eye, and no money. He's broke. So he goes out into the world. He finds a job as a bartender using his little telekinesis ray to
that
boot.
is the saddest backstory I think I've ever heard.
Those damn adventures and their home invasions.
Horrible people. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. So this is
absolutely.
one example of some of the vendors that you created. And then you also mentioned another really good one that you had created, which
Uh,
was Medusa.
yeah, oh yeah. So she actually ran an underworld market in one of my cities. She was kind of the boss that the parties had to meet with, and she would always wear this blindfold to not accidentally turn her customers to stone. But she also was a bit of a loan shark. So anyone that didn't pay up would forever grace her little audience chamber in the form of a nice lawn ornament, and of course they were always forced to take some sort of, you know, uh, uh, submissive pose before being turned to stone, bowing or kneeling or cowering.
Begging for their life.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I always found that like the most interesting um, the most interesting vendors, if you will, if you're thinking in the terms of like a MMO, but the most interesting vendors are ones that you would normally be fighting for your life against. And because a lot of these intelligent monsters, they want to live in a lap of luxury as well. They don't want to live in some dank cave somewhere with nothing going on. But I don't know if you've got any special ideas. I know as a player you've really turned your DMs heads in a corkscrew. But
Oh yeah, no, as a player, it was a horrible mess. I don't really feel bad for my DM, but somebody should. Um, but he always did a pretty good job at making a variety of different vendors and giving people a backstory. I think that's the thing. Not every vendor has to have a backstory, but some of them should have like at least something about themselves. Do they have relatives in the town? Do they have goals in mind? Do they have things that they want? If you're running an herbal shop, what kind of herbs would they want? What would they have? And that kind of goes on to our next big bullet point, which is that location plays a big part on inventory and pricing when it comes to your markets in D&D. A remote village versus a busy metropolis, you know, what they're going to have on hand. You have to take into consideration your world. Is there a giant war going on, which means health potions might be sky high in price and not very available.
Yeah. Yeah. Or one of my favorites was always when the players would come out of an adventure and they're fat with cash, you know, and they stumble into a little village and they just flood the village with gold and silver and just ruin the economy. You know, it's like it's like inflation through the roof. Everyone's got 100 gold pieces lying around, and the kids are playing with them in the street. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're in a giant city and you want to sell a magic item, you're probably going to be able to get more for it than if you're hard up in some backwater town where there's, you know, maybe 10 gold pieces in the whole town.
Right. Well, that's the other thing to consider is, you know, you just got done on this big dungeon crawl. You come back into a town with this nice golden statue with sapphire eyes, but come on, this is a podunk little town that has like 2 shops and like 30 people live there, maybe. Why would they want your golden statue, first of all? Second of all, they can't afford your golden statue. So there's that.
Well, they could if the price is right.
For nothing.
Yeah. I got 2 coppers and a ball of lint in my pocket for you.
Done. roll your persuasion
check. That desperate. I got to blow this town, you know. But yeah, absolutely. And I think that another thing, I recently used Sasserine in a game, and Sasserine was a town, is a very large town that was used in an adventure path that Paizo wrote for Wizards of the Coast during the 3rd edition days. And if you look at the giant city map, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of shop locations of everything. Like there are toy makers, jeweler, you know, like anything you could think of. And typically more than one. There are competition going on. My players spent a whole session just going around town. Like one player, they had a little NPC urchin in the party, and she was always causing trouble for the party. So he went to a toy maker and he bought her a bunch of toys, and he thought he could distract her with the toys, you know, to keep her out of trouble. And so, I mean, there's like all these inventive ways that you can make what would seemingly be an uninteresting shop very pertinent to what you're doing in the game, you know. And again, every shopkeeper should be or has the potential, you know. There are definitely those times where you've got something planned and you're like, oh, you want to go to the armorsmith, go to the armorsmith, just use the player's handbook. You want to move on,
get it over with.
But a great way to buy time if you're not sure what to do next is to think up you know, an armorsmith who was a veteran of the Orc Wars who suddenly has a meltdown in the middle of the shop while the party is trying to barter with them. You know, you could definitely, and buying time is a necessary DM skill, believe it or not, because your players are going to throw you for twists and you're not going to be ready. You know, maybe your entire thing you've prepped all week suddenly is out the window and you're like, what do I do now? I got an idea. I got to go to the bathroom. You go to the bathroom, you think up, I know they want to do this NPC thing. So you come up with just an interesting guy to spin their wheels for a little bit. That makes it fun and interesting, you know.
Different types of stores for sure. You don't have to stick to just the same 2 taverns at every single place. You can do a toy shop like you mentioned. I actually, in my last session, I had some of my players buy some weird, like the teeth chattering that's in the Batman Joker games as a distraction. They're like, you never know, we might need a distraction later. And they bought some little firecracker fireworks also for a distraction, which I thought was pretty clever.
You know, you actually came up with one when we were talking about this last time, Dracoya. You were talking about a tattoo shop, which
Tattoo shops.
that's not necessarily something that you necessarily see in D&D a lot, but I could see my players sitting down and saying, we need to get a tattoo that we all have. And then them trying to figure out what design do we want, you know? And again, that could be fun for them and also give you some breathing room as to time to think up something on the fly, you know?
Well, and the possibility of imbuing tattoos magically so that they have magical stat bonuses, which is in 5e. So there's that. Something else that you actually brought up, Matt, was a pet shop. And then if you have an underground market, the sale of illegal and exotic animals.
Yes. And then if you want to throw a combat in there, an impromptu combat, you know, one of those illegal or exotic dangerous animal escapes and suddenly is tearing through the streets.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, the shops can have all kinds of, you can come into a shop where a couple of, you know, thugs are trying to run a protection racket, for example. You know, and you might choose to intervene or not, because if you choose to intervene, then suddenly the boss of those thugs are going to be real interested in not only making sure that this shop owner is made an example of, but so is the party. Now, so does that mean the party then just goes on their merry way and leaves the shop owner to their own fate, or do they stick around and help out? You know,
I think that depends. That just definitely depends on the party.
I think I know what Dracoya would do.
Start any kind of mess and chaos that I possibly could, for sure.
Yes, she would join the thugs. She'd be like, yeah, double that.
Probably.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Something else to include that we didn't think of are hospitals. Adding in hospitals, it's also a really good way to add some other NPCs and maybe some other storylines into your game. Artifice stores. So if you have an artificer in your group or some kind of tinkerer, you can have like an invention shop. A bookstore would also be a really good idea. And Matt, you came up with another great idea, which was a general curiosity shop. So you could do like taxidermy and gene splicing.
Yeah, I have a curiosity shop or curio shop in one of my cities where the guy, he spends a lot of time taxidermying different parts of different animals together and then claims that they're beasts that they fought and defeated, and you know, like a duck on a beaver body or whatever, you know, just weird things. But that is definitely a good one. Another one that is strangely popular with both my groups, because I run 2 games a week, are tailors.
Oh yeah,
they want their characters looking good. And you know, let's face it, there comes a time where players are loaded down with some gold, and they don't necessarily always know what to do with it. And one of the best ways for them to spend some of their extra cash is on threads, you know.
Well, if you're a DM that's ever put or ever will put your players in a fancy setting, like they've been invited to dinner at the castle with the king, I mean, do you really want them showing up in all their sooty garb? Or do you want them to maybe look a little bit snazzy and spend an extra 50 gold?
And this is where I'm going to go on my 30-second rant about prestidigitation.
Okay.
I spells like that and mending drive me crazy, because it's like, why if those spells could just clean you up or fix your clothing, like I think it takes away something from the game to me. Like I can't even really describe the annoyance factor it makes me. Oh, your sword broke. Well, I'll just use mending on it. Oh, okay. So this is a moot thing then, is what you're saying. You know, it drives me crazy. But I'm off that rant now. So one of the shops I think that has it's very controversial. Some DMs love them, some DMs absolutely hate them. I am I'm kind of in the middle. I do something a little different, but that is magic shops, buying magic.
Mm.
Uh, now, my players, I never have magic shops in my game. In the big cities, I have auction houses that sell
Oh.
magic items that can be bid upon because I make magic very rare in my games, and then so it increases the value of them. And so you have like, Sotheby's and people raising their little cards to bid on their +1 swords because they're so rare, um, and but magic items in my game, and this is another aspect of making the shops interesting. I never use a magic item from the DMG. I customize every single magic item top to bottom.
Yes, the odd and unique items that you discussed with me that you use in your games are absolutely amazing. It's brilliant.
I'll share one. I'll just share one. I'll share the gremlin bag.
Okay.
So, like every player wants a bag of holding. Everyone's like, oh, I just want to be able to carry 500 pounds of things and not have to worry about encumbrance. I just want to haul it all around with me. And so I'm like, all right, I gave the party one bag of holding with a caveat. There is something that lives inside of the bag of holding called a gremlin. So I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to share it to the gremlin bag. Here we go. Up we go. Where is that? That's the wrong thing. Okay, so there's the gremlin bag. Can you see it?
We can.
All right. So a gremlin has taken up residence within this extra dimensional space. It is a little known fact that once a gremlin has made a bag of holding its lair, there is virtually nothing that can be done to dislodge the creature. And players have tried. They've tried to grab him and wrestle him out of there and twist his neck and do everything they can, but they can never seem to get him out of there. It's part of the enchantment of the bag. However, a gremlin can still be convinced to make use of the bag as long as the petitioner shows the proper respect that Kanish is getting to me.
Good.
So gremlins have an unbounded narcissistic streak and delusions of grandeur. The gremlin expects those who wish to use its lair to grovel, showering the tiny creature with respect due unto an emperor, if not a god. So most bags of holding start out as, a 250 pounder or 500 pounder. Well, gremlins, they constantly expand the layer. So like you might open the bag and you'll hear like sawing and hammering and whatnot going on. So there's no way to know how big or how much stuff a bag of holding with a gremlin in it can actually hold. However, if the person who owns, and this is another thing I do with my magic items, I give them all a curse. But there's no real way, if the person who owns the bag of holding dies, the gremlin essentially takes all the stuff for himself. He's like, this is mine now. So there's no way to know how many previous owners' stuff is in the bag. And believe me, my players are all like, there could be like infinite amounts of riches in there if this thing has had like 100 owners before. And so they're all trying to figure out how to get access to that stuff. That is my take on a bag of holding. And I think that DMs can make little items like this very interesting, much more interesting than, oh, I use my bag of holding to stuff, 50,000 gold coins in the bag, or whatever. That's kind of boring. And this makes it's made for hilarious role-playing opportunities. I had one player who just wanted to kill the gremlin. He wanted to wring its neck, and he would just froth, just gnash his teeth at the table. And then I have another player who used it who was like, yeah. And he just grovels. Oh, man. He calls him Master Highness. Oh, Master Highness. Show me your favor.
Because why not? It's D&D. We're here to have fun. Let's make it more chaotic than it needs to be. Sure.
Yeah. So, and I put all of my campaigns on websites. So that all of the magic items for this particular campaign is out there for people to share. But I think that it's like it makes for much more interesting role play and a much more interesting item if they have an opportunity to role play with it.
So to kind of sum everything up, when it comes to markets in D&D, don't be afraid to think out of the box. Think different types of vendors. Your vendors don't have to be just humans and elves. They can be whoever, whatever kind of creature you want them to be. Think about the different places that they could go: tattoo shops, hospitals, artifice stores, tailors. Also, consider the pricing in your world. If your world is going through a big famine right now, they're probably not going to have an exorbitant amount of flowers and herbs for them to work with. And last but not least, when it does come to magic or rare items, feel free to think out of the box again and make it as fun as you want.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everybody, for showing up and having a watch. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment what you would think would be a very interesting shop, NPC, or magic item even. We'd like to hear it. I'm always looking for good ideas. And if we find one that's really cool, we'll share it in the next video. But until then, come back and have another round on us.
I'll just take the Thorm ring. Thank you very much.
Oh, like hell you will. You can have this, take the Venom Dagger. I'll take the Thorm ring.
Venom Dagger? What am I? Well, actually, that could be useful. No, wait, I'm not taking the Thorm ring.
Over my dead body. I can't
believe you would even over your dead body. That could be a ring. I'm going to take this dagger and I'm going to shove it up your...
My ring.
Whether you are looking for truly unique rings to exchange on your wedding day, or simply a statement piece for Renaissance fair or cosplay, look no further than Thorum. Rings fit for the gods. Use promo code PICKLED for 20% off your order.